All right, everyone, we get into our interesting discussion of basically something that's termed Helmetic Therapy. So we have heard that name before, helminth. Helminth means worm. So it's the Greek term that describes a worm, right? We've looked at nematodes as very effective parasites, but there's kind of the opposite side of the coin when we talk about this parasitic infection and this idea of immunity. So we always associate these nematodes as something negative, something harmful, something we want to avoid. But there's this idea that basically nematodes have an important co-evolutionary history with humans and our role in immunity. So the first thing we have to do is kind of view the human body as an ecosystem. So we've talked about ecosystem, the desert ecosystem, the tropical ecosystem. Well, what about the human ecosystem and all of these trillions of cells, this sort of homeostatic body temperature, these feedback mechanisms, and all of these things have to be in balance. Just like an ecosystem has to be in balance, the desert has to have enough rain, the tropical forest has to basically have enough food to supply all of these different niches. The human body is similar, right? So we know that we deal, especially right now with this season, a lot of allergies, a lot of pollen allergies. What are allergies? Allergies are an extreme, basically an over-exaggeration of an immune response, right? It's a little piece of pollen. It's a little piece of cat hair. It's a little piece of, whatever you're allergic to that gets into the system. It's not necessarily harmful, but the body mounts this amazing and this very rigorous and very sort of above and beyond what it's supposed to do kind of response. So inflammation is increased. Inflammation is not necessarily a good thing for the body. It causes pain. It does have an immunological kind of purpose, but it needs to be controlled and it can't be too excessive. Yeah. So autoimmune conditions, basically when the immune system doesn't even know what it's fighting, and sometimes it fights our own cells, right? So our own immune system attacks our own cells, as in rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, multiple sclerosis. These are all autoimmune conditions. So the bad guy is not a virus or a worm. The bad guy is our own immune system. So when we approach the human body as an ecosystem, when we look at the idea of the ecological and co-evolutionary development of our immune system, we have to kind of look at some impact that these parasitic worms have had in our sort of in our species past, in our ancestral kind of immune development here, right? So what role do enteric parasites play? Right. So there's a couple of different hypotheses. And I'm going to go back to the hookworm because this has specific relevance to the hookworm. Right. So there's an idea that we are too clean today in the year 2021. We're too clean of a species. We wash our hands, especially right now with COVID. We clean our hands really well. We shower daily. We brush our teeth. We wash our hands. Well, if you can think back to 200-300 years ago, that didn't happen. If we were back in medieval Europe, they thought it was dangerous to take baths. So some of these royal kings, King Henry, in his whole life may have had 4 baths in his whole life. Right? So you can see then how much more quote unquote dirty we would have been as a species, non-hygienic as a species. But this is sort of the idea in that ecosystem. You can imagine an ecosystem that is too clean. If we go and kill all one type of species in a type of ecosystem, in a forest, it's going to have a negative impact on the rest of the ecosystem. So this old friend hypothesis, the hygiene hypothesis, states that the coevolution caused our immune system to become symbiotic with the worms. So the worms act as an endocrine gland that deliver important messages to our immune system through the contact in the human gut. So why do we have autoimmune conditions today? Right? Why does our immune system attack our own cells? Well, the hypothesis linked back here is that we don't have these worms, right? Normally we have a small level of worms in our system that keeps the immune system occupied, keeps it busy, kind of keeping these worms in a low number. We remove these worms, now this immune system is bored, right? It doesn't know what to attack. So any little thing that it sees, a little bit of pollen, it goes and basically attacks that, right? So having the worms in the system, acting as an endocrine gland, sort of like a hormonal control, gets kind of elaborate there, but there's some messages that are being sent, right? Keeping the immune system in check, keeping the immune system active. And if we can apply this sort of to a dog, right? If you have a dog that's at home all day, not exercising, just there, it's going to get in trouble. It's going to start chewing the shoes. It's going to start chewing the sofa. It's going to kind of start digging, kind of getting itself in trouble because it has too much time on its hands. So by having something for that dog to do, keeping it distracted, it helps keep it out of trouble. And that's sort of the same idea with our immune system. So by having the worms, our inflammatory response is dampened, right? Anaphylaxis is unheard of in people with hookworm or whipworm infection. So anaphylaxis is this strong allergy, like when you've heard of people get stung by a bee, and then they basically, it's a life-threatening condition because they can't breathe, right? This anaphylaxis is this systemic, basically allergic type reaction. So people with these types of infections basically don't have that anaphylaxis risk. So that's telling us that there's some critical role that these worms play sort of in the regulation of our immune system. A little bit technical here, but so through the proliferation and circulating T regulatory cells are basically the, like you think in an orchestra, the director, the conductor that's conducting the orchestra. That's what T regulatory cells do. They kind of mount the immune response, kind of keep it in check. Then in turn produce lots of interleukin-10 cytokine and another cytokine called transforming growth factor beta, tumor necrosis factor alpha, interferon gamma. So with a lot of big words, but what this translates to is by having these worms in the system, the immune system communicates very effectively with itself and doesn't over exaggerate its response. So it deals with what it has to, but not causing these allergies and these autoimmune conditions. So it seems like it's an important aspect to have these in our system. And this goes back to a couple of other probiotic organisms you may have heard of. So kefir is, from milk products. So there's this symbiont with humans. Sauerkraut for our digestive, kombucha for liver health. There's the hookworm Nicator. Some interesting sort of facts here. The most potent solution to allergies, asthma, and autoimmune disorders yet. It is a super potent multicellular probiotic. So what does that mean, a probiotic? Probiotic is something that we basically introduce into our body on purpose to play that role that is going to help the body, right? So this seems a little bit controversial at times, but again, it's not for everyone. I'm not saying go out and get hookworm, right? But for people that have severe allergies, they don't have any other option. The steroids aren't doing their role anymore. They're just, they don't have any way to live a normal functional life. This may be something that basically can remedy a lot of these allergies. So it seems kind of extreme, but if you're suffering from all these allergies, that may be a non-extreme option. It may be something very viable. So hookworms tend to be much more powerful and less dangerous than immunomodulatory pharmaceuticals. So if you're into that kind of stuff, I'll associate a YouTube video with this. And some of my colleagues are more familiar with this than I am. I can put you in direct communication with them for this immuno treatment, this Helmetic Therapy. It's, again, probably not FDA approved today. It's hard to get insurances to cover you to get some of these worm infections, but this is out there if you're interested and if this seems like a viable option for you. But just something to think about. We know, yes, nematodes are parasites, but yes, they do have a historic role in our co-evolutionary past to help us have a normal, strong-acting, very effective, but sort of focused type of immune system. So with that, I'll let you process that, and that will be sort of the end of this discussion. Right? So y'all have a great one there.